Alright, time for movie history. So, on September 10th, 1945, 14-year-old Seika Yokowa dies of starvation. This is because during the end of World War II, Seita apparently starves himself to death at the Soyonma train station. So basically, what is the story Grave of the Fireflies all about? Grave of the Fireflies is about two children who lost both of their parents during the war. Seita, a 14-year-old boy, and Setsuko, a 4-year-old girl. So in the beginning of 1945, the family's house was destroyed by a firebombing along with most of the Kobe. The children, teenage Seita and little Setsuko, escaped unharmed. However, the mom, who has the health condition, dies of severe burns. Seita apparently conceals the mother's death from Setsuko as an attempt to keep her happy, which she learns of despite Seita's efforts. Seita and Setsuko move with their distant aunt. However, in the middle of the story, Seiko and Seita apparently leave their house, their aunt's house, but they move into an abandoned shelter where they release fireflies in the night. Seita is horrified that the insects have died, and apparently she allows him to bury them in the grave. So they ask why the mom had to die, but when they ran out of rice, Seita steals out of the farmers and loots homes during the air raid, which was beaten and censored by the police. The officers realize that Seita was stealing due to hunger and releases it. However, Setsuko falls ill and she suffers from malnutrition. Seita withdraws the last of his money from their mother's bank account. After doing so, he becomes distraught when he learns that Japan had surrendered. His father was the Imperial Japanese Navy captain, most likely dead. Most of Japan's navy has been sunk. Seita returns to Setsuko with food, but she dies later when Seita finishes preparing it. In the end of the story, Seita cremates Setsuko's body and uses a stuffed doll inside a straw casket that carries the ashes in the candy tin along with his father's photograph. But shortly after the end of World War II, Seita starves to death in the Samyokta train station. However, the spirit apparently leads out to Seita and Setsuko as well. So they board a ghostly train throughout the journey and lead back to the events of Seita's death. The spirits arrive at their destination happy, surrounded by fireflies, but they rest in the hilltop bench looking at present-day Kobe. So the Astaki Pond. So this is actually where Seita and Setsuko lived together before Setsuko died of malnutrition. So basically what I was about to say is that World War II is actually really scary. So if you're like born between like the 1940s or 1930s, you may know about this. But if you're like in the present time like me, then you won't know unless you do history. So basically, World War II was definitely a really scary experience. Like it was abbreviated for World War II. This actually lasted from 1939 to 1945. This apparently includes the Allies and Axis powers. Japan was also the one on the Axis side. So basically, Seita Yokosawa was voiced by Tetsubo Tetsubi. But in the Skyport Entertainment and Soho Super Hentai, this is the English version. He was voiced by J. Robert Spencer and Adam Gibbs. Setsuko Yokoa was voiced by Anyo Shirashi. She was voiced by Connie Orr, the Canadian actress, and Emily Neves. Mrs. Yokowa was voiced by Yokishio Shinowa. In the English dub, she was voiced by Veronica Taylor and Shelley Calise Black. Seita is Setsuko's aunt. This is an unnamed. So basically, I'm not gonna go through like that. So basically, the Japanese voice actor is Akemi Yaguchi. Amy Jones and Marcy Bano was actually the English voice actor. Now this is an unnamed thing again. Okay, Seita as Setsuko's cousin was voiced by Kazumi Nokoi, but in the English dub she was voiced by Shannon Conley. But this one is like unknown, so we're just gonna leave it. Sorry. Okay, for the father, there's no Japanese dub, but he was voiced by Dan Green as well. Doctor was also voiced by Michio Demonia, who was voiced by Crispin Freeman. Crispin Freeman also voiced the old man as well. The train station worker was voiced by two Japanese actors, Tetsuko Harita and Mitsuko Demho. But in the English version, it was voiced by Andrew Love. So Grave of the Fireflies author Anuko Nosaka had many offers to make a live-action film and the adaptation of the short story. He argued the compared children would not be able to completely play by the characters. Unlike what we apparently say, is that World War II can be really scared depending on which day you're born, which day you're born. So basically, Asayo Tahaka was compared to the story after seeing how the main character Seita was such a wartime ninth grader. So Seita was actually a ninth grader. So it depends on the version. If you're really in high school would apparently be the ninth grade, 9th to 12th grade. Yeah, that's apparently what I was actually saying. So in another film, they apparently adapted this, Grave of the Fireflies, which is a 2005 film. It was a TV adaptation drama of the 1967 autobiographical short story by the author Isuki Nosaka. This was an experience for the firebombing of 1945. One of his sisters died of a result of the sickness. This film was apparently set into the epilogue 60 years after the Second World War ended. But in respects to Hasako Hosono, Seita is Setsuko's aunt, who just recently passed away at 95. So this is actually the same thing. However, what I was going to say is that it's definitely the same thing, So basically, in the live-action film, Setsuko is 5 years old and Seita is 15 years old. But unlike the anime film Grave of the Fireflies, Seita is 14 years old and Setsuko is 4. So basically, when you minus these ages, for example, 1945 minus 1941, Setsuko is 4 years old. And if you minus 19.5 and 1931, Seita is 14 years old. So basically in the story, I think Seita is a ninth grader. So basically, in Japan, it definitely depends on which grade you are. Doesn't matter, I know some schools are strict, some schools are not, but it depends. So just a reminder to those guys who have been experiencing this World War II. If you haven't been experiencing this, I suggest you read it up about it. Really sad. Basically, I know a lot of those World War II stuff. I've read this in history before. I actually know the Axis and Allied countries really well. So basically, there was nothing that I can do to say it. I really don't want to waste a lot of time with it, because I'm going to make another video about it soon. Okay, so that's actually all for now, and this is me signing off.